May I have your attention, please? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to begin our program. We're so excited to have you all here for our final installment, the Commission on African American History, Black Literacy Societies, and the Importance of Advocating for Excellence. We're so thankful to the staff here at the MLK Center making accommodations for us. And we ask that you please, if you're just coming in and want some lunch, please help yourself. Feel free to get up and get you something to eat. And we're going to go ahead and get started so that we can get you in and get you out in a timely manner. At this time, I'd like to recognize the chairman of the Commission on African American History, Ms. Evelyn Bryant. Ms. Evelyn.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. Can y'all hear me without this mic? Great. I forgot. You ready for me? So, welcome to the Commission on African American History Emancipation Proclamation Series. This is our final installment. Woohoo! We've been going long and strong for 6 months now. And this final installment is based on Black literary societies and the importance of advocating for excellence. So I want to thank you all who've come out today and participated in the hike, and to be able to meet those who are involved along with the Juneteenth committee. And I'd love to let you know who our commission members are. I'm Evelyn Adger, chair of the commission. Willie Black is our secretary. Kamika Sidbury is our chair of the Emancipation Subcommittee. And before we leave here today, please give Ms. Kamika a big round of applause for all that she has done to put all this together. Atiba Johnson, he is the chair of our Living Legends Committee. Mr. Raymond Davis, he is our coordinator for working on the Masonic Lodge project. Shakima Clinton Quintana is a member. Brandon Hickman, a member. Sierra Washington and LaShonda Teague. And if y'all will just stand so that everybody can see your faces and know who you are. So our commission is our technology. Our purpose is to plan, develop, implement community projects to recognize and increase the awareness of the contributions of African Americans to Wilmington's history, to encourage and assist African American history, to recognize sites in the community that are significant to African American history. Our meetings are held on the first Monday of each month at 4 p.m. at City Hall in council chambers. So if you get an opportunity, we are actually streaming now on YouTube, is that correct? And the city's website. So it'll be up next week. So go back. If you've missed some of our series, please go back and watch them. They were very informative, educational, and enlightening. So once again, welcome. Thank you for attending. And I'm going to turn this over to our sub-chair committee, Ms. Kamika Sidbury.
All right, throughout the last 6 months, the City of Wilmington's Commission on African American History has taken each attendee and viewer on the Great Migration to Black literary societies. We have learned that through the promotion of literacy, Black literary societies were instrumental in promoting freedom, advocacy, and excellence as it relates to every aspect of the lives within the Black or African American community. Within Black literary societies, groups discuss politics, news, and literature in order to build and support community leadership and growth. The title of the series reminds us of the importance of history and education as we empower our future selves and generations. We all must understand that being a literate society coincides with the success of individuals and communities within history who become leaders in churches, government, educational institutions, and the community. Even as the series ends, please continue to cultivate a community of literacy and excellence.
Thank you, Ms. Sidbury. Again, we're so glad to have you here. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you are standing and don't have to leave, we ask if you could please take a seat. We've got some seats available. It gets a little crowded at the door and to move around in this room if folks are not seated. So we ask that you please sit in one of our chairs. Again, this is our final series. Please forgive me for not introducing myself. I thought everybody knew who I was. I'm Penelope Spicer Sidbury. I'm the city clerk, also the staff person for the commission. It is my honor to serve with this great group of people. As a reminder, this session is being recorded, and it will be shown again through all our social media outlets. So please, I think as the discussions take place, we want to be reminded that it is being recorded. So now we get ready for our phenomenal panel that we have for you today. Mr. Abdul Sharif is the president and imam of the Tahi Islamic Center, the first Islamic center and mosque in the city of Wilmington. Mr. Sharif retired from Progress Energy after 33 years of service. He is a student of the late Muslim leader Imam Din Muhammad, and he has been the longest serving imam in the history of Wilmington. In addition to serving as a full-time imam, he is owner and manager of Book Health and Fitness Business. He's the co-convener of the Imam Consultative Body of North Carolina and an active member of the Mid-Atlantic sections of the Imams, the National Quartermaster for the Muslim American Veterans Association, and chaplain and minority affairs representative for the local Vietnam Veterans of America chapter. He is a lifetime member of both the Vietnam Veterans of America and the Muslim American Military Association organization. Ladies and gentlemen, can we welcome to the table Mr. Sharif. Parker. And if you go to the far end, Mr. Sharif. No, I'll take care of that. You just go. Parker do it. Parker do it. Thank you. Our next candidate for us is Ms. Linda Granger. Linda is a retired educator from the New Hanover County School System. She's passionate about literacy knowledge, its purpose, and its power. She is currently employed at DC Virgo Preparatory Academy as an interventionist, providing instructional support to students. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Granger. And our final panelist for this evening is Mr. Brandon Hickman, who is also a member of the commission. Brandon Hickman, a.k.a. Big B, was raised in Wilmington, North Carolina on the north side of the city. He grew up with a strong support system of his family, church, and community boys and girls club. He says, if it wasn't for the community boys and girls club, I'd probably be going in your house right now. Big B used his musical talents of playing the trombone and percussion to cultivate him into a scholarship at Norfolk State University, where he was a member of the Suburban Legion Marching Band. It was there where Big B branded his name as a host and a funny man on campus. Upon graduation, Big B began teaching school in Charleston, South Carolina, and then returning to Wilmington, North Carolina to teach and join the Coast 97.3 team as a DJ. Additionally, Big B founded Urban Promotions, an organization for teens to voice their concerns and opinions to community leaders. Big B travels the East Coast speaking, motivating, and presenting workshops for youth and adults on Hip Hop 101, history and diversity in the workplace. Currently, Big B is the program director and afternoon air personality for WMNX Coast 97.3, as well as the program director for WDAI 98.5 KISS FM in Myrtle Beach. He is a member of the largest DJ organization in the country, the Core DJs, in which he is the entertainment reporter for Core DJ Radio. He was named the 2008-2009 North Carolina Alumni Brother of the Year for the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. A Core DJ, 2009 Southeastern Music Entertainment Program Director of the Year, and recently nominated for the North Carolina Music Awards Radio Personality of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brandon Big B Hickman. And at this time, we will begin with our questions, and Ms. Sidbury is going to facilitate and moderate that session. Thank you.
All right, so everyone, we will go through the discussion of 4 questions. Each person or each panelist will have the opportunity to be first, second, last, and then first again. Mr. Sharif. All right, so when we start, if you need to reword or if you need to comment, make the question your own, make your answer your own, and just be comfortable with your choice. All right, so I am going to start with Imam Sharif. You need a pen? I got one. Start down.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, pass this one. How do we cultivate a cultural literacy to advocate for excellence in our daily lives and community?
First and foremost, I think we have to have a strong connection with our history. We have to be willing to be independent thinkers and not be followers of the herd. We have to be willing to accept criticism, get to know other people, and realize and understand that we're living from the past and we're living for the future. And I think in the African American community, black community, we have to see the future generations as leaders, and we should encourage them not to just be competitors. Don't just compete, but be a leader in your field. If it's teaching, if it's DJing, whatever it is, be a leader. Don't just go there if you want to compete. You have to start small, but always think big. And we have to, in our community, know our history ourselves. Go back to the what we might call the griot condition. The griot was one who explained things. You know, he had the villagers sitting around him, and he would be and understand as we delve into this history, we lost a great body of knowledge in that African diaspora. Those people brought over here on those filthy ships. Well, many of them were scholars, spoke several languages, 4, 5, 6, 8, whatever. And in the doctorate level, they were degreed in that level of knowledge that they had of sciences, mathematics, physics, things like that. We got to reconnect. So to a degree, as we relate to our history, recognize and understand we're also in America a new people. We're not the same people that we were when we came here. That's why we emphasize in the Juneteenth structure, we emphasize a lot about family reunion. Because the family is the first school. The mother and father is the first teacher. If we think about our mothers in the pain of childbirth, even though there was immense pain, the first thing she wanted to do is hug that baby after all that pain. Put her right next to her heart where she gave it milk from. So I think in this history, as we go forward, what we talk about the family, the men, you have to become better respecters of the women. We talk a lot about great men. We often leave the women out, but I think the women, and by God's design, are going to surpass the men. So I think that's part of our history dynamic, encouraging that literacy to start in the home. And even though we talk about ethnicity, we talk about race, we got to begin to kind of take it out of it and look at the human anatomy of things. People are not born dumb. They're not born illiterate. And when we look at the term literacy, it has a lot of race in the word. You take off the Y and add the E, there's race there. So a person was illiterate, they couldn't read and they couldn't write. So where did the word come from? Who brought it about? So words make people, so we have to structure ourselves around a whole new word paradigm shift. So hopefully that's enough for now. We need to come back.
All right. So You saying we need to change this question?
Not for me.
Okay, all right, so you good. So, how do we cultivate, Ms. Granger, how do we cultivate a culture of literacy to advocate for excellence in our daily lives and communities?
He's just to piggyback on what he said. I can't say much more other than if I speak from the aspect of the school systems that reading is fundamental has now become reading is political. So we're very limited in the school system by whatever means to do a lot of literal things due to censorship. But I do think that the stakeholders most accountable are the parents and the caregivers who plant the seed. They're going to cultivate the seed, and then this commission and organizations like it can help our community grow. So it's just wonderful that they exist, because it's not going to happen in public school settings. It's going to happen in the home, and it's going to happen in the community, as it did for me when I came up through the ranks.
So, Mr. Hickman, how do we cultivate a culture of literacy to advocate for excellence in our daily lives and communities?
Before I even start, I want to say it's an honor and a privilege to be on this panel with Brother Sharif and Ms. Granger. And I grew up next to Ms. Granger's mother on McCray Street, and I don't think in a million years I think I'd be sitting on a panel next to her. So I just want to say that. So I think it is community-based and family-based. We have to make sure that it's okay to read. We have to laser focus. It's cool to read. Put down, in my home, we put down FaceTime. No FaceTime until everything is done in the house. Whether it's your homework or when I say FaceTime, I'm talking about electronics. So we have to put down some of the electronics and get back to reading. And we have to make that laser focus, that it's okay to read. I was always told by my mom, and you probably hear me make several references to my mom, who was an educator, who also was a Wilson grad. It was, if you could read, you could do anything. And if you could read well, you can excel. And so I think that's when we laser focus on the point of reading can help you, and reading can take you out of a situation. It'll change, education changes your situation regardless. But if you can read, you can do anything that you want to do, and read well, you can excel. So I think we have to be laser focused on cultivating that, just making that culture happen, that it's okay to read. It's okay to go to the library. It's okay to sit down in a book. The other day, I just had some friends at the radio station. They were talking about me. They were looking for me at the radio station. I was not there. They said, B is at the mall. And they were like, well, we're going to go to the mall and see what he's doing. So they went to the mall, and as they're pulling up, I'm walking out of the mall. This is Independence Mall. I'm walking out of the mall, and I had a bag. And they stopped the car and was like, who goes to the mall and buy a book? And I was like, I guess me, I don't know. But that has been so laser focused that what I needed is in that book, and I'm gonna go purchase it. Whether it's a comic book, whether it's self-help, whether it's something that I need to know about, I'm gonna go get that book before I get a pair of sneakers, and that's really big for me. So I think when we focus on it as a family and a community, and we tell our children that it's very important that you learn to read and not make it a painstaking task. What did you read today? It was fun for me. I went downtown to the library and read books and tried to get the most and get the little award at the end of the summer. It was cool. And plus I wanted to go to the library because we ain't had no air conditioning. So that was a good thing for me. But it also emphasized how important it was to read, because I was around that. So you have to have we have to have our children around reading, around literacy, around things that are important. But with every book, there's also a history lesson too. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all. Second question. We're gonna start with Ms. Granger this time. Why is intellectual freedom just as important as physical freedom?
When I read that question, I pondered and thought about my elementary education was in a segregated school. There was a library in my community and you read really to keep from having to work. If you were reading, your parents didn't find work for you to do. So, and that was in my household. But being educated in a segregated school, I felt my teacher's primary focus was to prepare me to integrate into a larger society. And we were multicultural, really, because we spoke standard English, we read, we wrote well, and when you got home, then you could play and be you and talk how you wanted to talk and say it how you wanted to say, but not while you were at school. So we were prepared to integrate. So that integration allowed you to, that intellectual knowledge allowed you to physically be wherever you chose to be. It opened that door.
Mr. Hickman, why is intellectual freedom just as important as physical freedom?
When we look at history and we look at Juneteenth, and slaves were freed, and some stayed. They stayed as sharecroppers because at that time, some of us could not read. It was illegal for us to read. The intellectual freedom let us become owners, not just sharecroppers, but become owners of our land. My grandfather himself moved to Arkansas and got an education and moved back to the big city of Riegelwood. But he became an owner of his property, not just someone that was sharing the crops. And I think him becoming educated and being able to help his community inside of the Armoire and Riegelwood area, he was able to empower the folks around him, the farmers around him, saying, hey, look, you know, you can fix this yourself if you just read this manual. If you read this manual, you'll be able to fix it yourself, and you don't have to pay the $50 or $100, whatever it was, to fix something. We could do it in our own community, and I think that's very important. I think the empowerment of a people comes from education, not just the physical freedom. If we physically free and we don't have any education, it's not going to help us at all. We'll be back to being slaves. But I think the actual educational part of being free is amazing, because now you can use that to do anything that you want to do. You can teach others, you can empower others, you can teach yourself, and that becomes a whole different type of freedom.
Thank you. All right. Iman Sharif, why is intellectual freedom just as important as physical freedom?
First and foremost, the intellect is the higher part of ourselves. And if you go back in time when we had the big dinosaurs roaming the planet, they were big and strong, but they're no longer around. Because they didn't know how to intellectually get out of the way of the falling comets and the falling trees and the storms. So, you know, brain over brawn. So if we can deal with what's internally inside of us, we can go anywhere. You know, my mom told me to learn the importance of words and numbers. If you can learn the importance of words and numbers, you can just about accomplish anything. So the intellectual freedom is the higher freedom. And I think that's what a lot of our foreparents realized as they left the plantation. You know, like we have a story, we say, you know, the field hand went to the house hand. We didn't necessarily say field hand, we said something else. But they say the field hand went to the house hand, and they said, brother, we got to go somewhere. He said, where we going to go better than this, man? I mean, I'm eating, I'm dressed here, but you wearing somebody else's clothes, you eating somebody else's food. Any place we can go right now is better than where we are right now. So the mind, you know, if we could think that mind really means, man really means mind. You know, we can't go nowhere without this mind, male or female. So that's why the intellectual freedom, I mean, animals are free. You know, they hunt, they eat, they sleep, they have sex, and it's over. But the human being, he has to make a world. He has to go where no man has gone before. He has to send a rocket to Mars and calculate mathematically how it's going to land with reference to the gravity and hit a certain spot. That's mind work. a spaceship gets lost because it's lost function of some machinery, he has to mathematically calculate with his mind how to get it back. We've seen the story of Hidden Figures. We have to mathematically calculate the speed of the moon. An African American did that. We have to do these things with the mind. We can be physically free all we wanted. So when we protest, that's good. But when we read, if I can go back to that word, we have in it, it's a single syllable, but it's two parts. The first part is read. The second part is add. Read is to do again. When we repeat, we reiterate, we reoccur, we reread. But every time we read, we're adding to this intellect. And the words make us. We can't do anything without a word. Even when the caveman was writing on the cave trying to draw animals, and I saw this and I saw that, and and ugh, he was still trying to use words. So this intellect is a powerful, powerful thing. And if we can encourage our youth to just realize how powerful it is, it's like the song we say, ain't nothing stopping me now. That's the way it is with this mind. It's powerful. The United Negro College Fund, they have the mind is a terrible thing to waste. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So if we can encourage students what they got inside of it, it's God-given, really. Everything we need is inside of us to develop and go. Everybody got the same brain. If you deny a person the use of that brain, that's what slows them up. That's why, we were not allowed to read. Let's do everything we can to keep the light from those slaves. The light was reading, understanding, growing, developing, evolving. So the intellectual freedom is where we got to go. You could be blind, crippled, halfway crazy, but if your mind is straight, you can lead the world. The President Roosevelt, he led the world from a wheelchair. Blind man, Ray Charles, he was shaving in the dark. They say, Ray, why are you shaving with the lights off? He said, the lights been off all my life. But his mind. So, it's part.
Thank you so much. All right. Mr. Hickman, our third question. How do we intentionally educate others about the significance of historical events and contributions of others within the Black community?
I think we be intentional. I think I said earlier, for every book that we read, there's a history lesson behind it. I think we have to be intentional about that and showing things within our Black community. I remember my mom taking me by, that's the Wilmington Journal. It got burned down because of so and so and so and so. That is Dr. Eaton's home, and Dr. Eaton was the first African American to challenge Board versus Brown education here in Wilmington. So she actually showed me, and then when I saw the book, I wanted to read it. And I was like, oh, that's what that means. So I think we have to be intentional and show kids. To this day, I always tell this story about the prologue to the Canterbury Tales. We had to learn it in a young lady in Miss Tyndall class. She taught at New Hanover High School. Rest in peace, Miss Tyndall. And so we had to learn this prologue. And my mom, what's wrong with you, man? I got to learn this prologue to the Canterbury Tales. And out of nowhere, she said, Juan de la Shore with the surest plotter, Druth of Varsha, President to the Rhoda, and Brother de Vivine, and Swish Liqueur. And I was like this. How you know that? She said, we had to learn it too. But for her to tap in, I think that's what we have to do. Tap into the youth, the things that they liked, the things that encourage them, whether it's sports, whether it's media, whether it's history. When we tap into it, you'll see the light come on, and I think that's being intentional. Us being intentionally saying this is very important, but there's also a story behind it. There's also some history behind it. I say it all the time. I think I was talking to my nephew, I have custody of my nephew, and he was like, man, you gotta go to the library. I said, you know the library used to be Belk's? And he was like, what? I said, yeah, this used to be Belk's, man. I used to buy my socks downstairs in the basement. And he was like, you lying. I said, I promise you. I said, but let me take you where the library used to be. So I was able to he didn't want to go to the library, but when I start talking about where it was, what it used to be, then it was more encouraging to him to go into that space and be comfortable because Unc said something about it. He even went on a tour this particular spring break, and he was in Howard University, and they were talking about fraternities and sororities and history. And he said, I said, how'd you like it? He called me back from Washington, D.C. He said, it was good, but I'm glad you wasn't there. And I said, why? And he said, man, we probably would have been there 2-3 more hours. You would have been tired. But that's good. He understood that there was going to be a history lesson with all the things that he had going on as far as literacy and history. And those two things are, they go together, but it is intentional that we tap in to whatever that youth likes, whatever they like, and make it okay for them to dig in and read about whatever their hobbies are, or whatever things, their loves, their passions. And I think that's important for us to super be focused.
Thank you. Imam Sharif, how do we intentionally educate others about the significance of historical events and the contributions of others within the black community?
If I could focus right here on Wilmington right now, I hope everybody noticed the placard since they came in. And we have to reestablish a line that's been cut off. We've been cut off from the lifeline of our people. We don't know the traditions, the history. We don't know the families. Right here in Wilmington, we have some pretty dynamic people right here in Wilmington, but nobody talks about them. I mean, people who graduated from Williston, I mean, in recent times. I mentioned some things on a hike today, you know. I called on Linda Pierce name, who established Elder House, which is a state role model across the state now. She started a little small building, but it's probably, it may be a regional, national model, you know. I mentioned Wilma Daniels, who has Hooper Apartments, where at one time there was William Hooper School, you know, African American, who signed the Declaration of Independence. We have to focus on, and we can show them we got local heroes. You don't have to be a natural celebrity to be a hero. You understand what I'm saying? And it goes back to that family, to that home. We have Seabreeze, which used to be a historical, like a resort. You know, I think the Freeman family, I know the history correct, they had a Caucasian fund from them, but they managed to buy a whole lot of acres for like 25 cents an acre. Spicer might could correct me on it if I'm wrong, but they bought that, and we had high-style performers who would come, and it would be like a resort for them. You know, but if you look around, there's not too many families that, you know, own their properties that they once had, because the young kids, we got to teach our youth the value of the property, the value of our traditions, the value of our history. We got to reconnect with that lifeline. That lifeline keeps it alive in our DNA, keeps it alive in our genes. You know, historically, if a psychologist wanted to take you far back enough, he could take you back to the pain in the mother's womb. You know, but you know, God has taken that pain away from us. He don't want us to remember it, but the mother remembers it. But we got to reconnect with the lifeline, all of our historical traditions, the knowledge, like Brother B is emphasizing in the books. We got to, you know, find a book. If you know your child is interested in mathematics, then get something on mathematics. If they're interested in medicine, get something on. It has to become a culture. You know, people are not smarter than us, but they emphasize it in their culture. You know, if you're in class for an hour, you're going to study at least 3 or 4 for that class. And that's the importance of emphasizing study. Because if you look at Booker T. Washington, he said, let's pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. You know, we used to iron for somebody, we used to wash clothes for somebody, we did brick mason work for somebody. Let's do it for ourselves now. You know, one of the largest building facilities contractors in America is owned by 2 sisters. Their father, he used to lay bricks for the man that owned him. When he was set free, he said he established his own brick company. He turned into real estate, and now he got 2 daughters. They got one of the biggest real estate building firms in America. So we just got to reconnect with that lifeline. And like I said before, we got to reconnect with family. And when our parents are telling us to read this, check out this, these young people who are in here, don't frown. Get that book, read, because that's what's going to make you a leader. It has become our culture to emphasize certain professions, certain subjects. So, you know, I say words make people. You know, literacy, you know, we can erase that word out of our vocabulary if we want to, and just focus on this intellect. That's what we're trying to develop, because that's what's going to lead the world. eventually. Thank you.
Ms. Granger, thank you so much, Ms. Sharif. How do we intentionally educate others about the significance of historical events and the contributions of others within the Black community?
Well, other than adding to what the other two panelists have said, I'd like to, the parents that are here and the guardians that are here with your children, whether they want to be here or not, it is your responsibility to take them to the places they need to be. Before they, if I took my children to Atlanta, before they went to whatever that amusement park, you're going to the Martin Luther King Center. Before you get, this is the first stop, before you get there. And within the school system, I think that, as I said, reading is so political, but when your child comes home with a report to do about anything or has any research to do, you as the parent can say, talk about this person. Help them select someone that is relevant to their life, to their culture, so you can help to build their culture. It is totally up to the parent. A lot is left up to the child. And if they want to, constantly stay on their phones, are you reading a book on your phone? You're going to have to, it's going to take parents again, because we're fighting against technology, we're fighting against politics, we're fighting against a lot of things that are just coming and not allowing our children to be literate and show their intellect and be proficient in whatever they do. So it has to be intentional, starting with the parents. You can report on this person and talk to your children. And I also tell parents, listen to your children read. Do you know your child's voice? They can TikTok, they can rap. Can they read proficiently? Do you know your child's voice? Have your child read to you while you are working, or just, you have to know your child's voice to know how to help them, because they are very good imitators. They can pretend because because we depend on them to do all of the technology, so they're smart and they're literate. They really aren't. So listen to your child.
Thank you, Ms. Granger. So we're going to go back to Iman Sharif. You ready? All right. So this is a two-part question. Where do we go from here? How do you suggest we continue to energize the community using the teachings of Black literary societies?
Well, there are tons of African American Black authors. We should focus on them. And there are many, 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 many good books written by African American men and women. We can name titles. Everyone has to have a favorite title. There was a book, Ralph Ellison, Invisible Man. And one of the things he said in that book, somewhere along the lines of time, I lost focus on my responsibility. We have to pick up the responsibility that this is a charge we got to take on. This literary charge of where we go from here. Who's going to stand on our shoulders? Whose shoulders are we standing on? In that regard, we have a tendency to kill our leaders. We might kill them physically, but we kill their energy. We kill their spirit. They open the door, we never walk through it. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, he wrote a book, Miseducation of the Negro. So sometimes there's not a back door, we make one. There's not a back seat on the bus, we'll make one. I got on the bus, I was about 11, 12 years old here, and my aunt was with me, and she went to the back of the bus. I went to the front of the bus. And she kept telling me, come on back. And I sat right, I ain't going no back. I just sat right there and looked at the bus driver, he looked at me, he kept on driving. They had colored and white fountains downtown. And we were down there one time, and I asked my mother, because I spent my first 8 years in New York, I said, which one do I go to? And she looked at me, she smiled, because she knew I wasn't going to the colored one. I went right up to the so-called white one just for the spite of it, and drunk from it. And you know, I could have been less than 12, but I was daring anybody to say anything. So we have to be willing to dare to change, and we have to emphasize. You know, and people say, "Well, take this book off the shelf." We say, "Well, let's take Huckleberry Finn off the shelf." That's offensive to me. You know, well, this author's offensive to me. Well, let's take Jack London off the shelf. He's offensive to me. You know, and they would start saying, well, we better slack up on this, taking these books off the shelf. Because there are a whole lot of books on in the library and in the schools right now that are offensive to African American people. So I think we have to just, what I said in the beginning, you know, be an independent thinker. We got to be independent people. Like some people call me, they say, what you going to discuss on the hike? I say, take it. Where you going? Or what's your information? I say, well, take the hike if you want to know what we're going to do. You know, 'cause I'm discussing from living the history.
Right.
I don't need any notes.
Right.
I'm discussing from living the history. I went to Willis, and I came up in women. I saw the segregation. I know the history of this community right here. So I think we have to be a people. We know the history too. Some of you sitting out there, oh, you know the history. You gotta start teaching it, talking about it, and be willing to even go into the schools and talk about it. You know, as much as we can use the media, with brothers like Big B, you know, get into Bob and Pro. We got a film here, Juneteenth day, the Ruby Bridges passing the baton. Bring your kids out, let them see that film. They're not gonna show it in the schools. Bring them out, let them see that film. And it'll give us something to think about. We just gotta be, you know, we're not in the teaching profession, we're not in schools, we gotta be teachers in the home, teachers in the community. And we gotta make it, like you say, focus. We gotta be laser focused on each one teach one. You know, so that's I can say some more, but give somebody else some time.
We're gonna have some additional insight at the end. All right. Mrs. Granger. All right, two-pronged question. Where do we go from here? How do you suggest we continue to energize the community using the teachings of Black literary societies?
I think that I picked this book up, and and most of you are familiar with it, came from support, but comics, short versions, start small and individually. If you want to be a historian, you build on it, but they need a basis to build on that. Hey, I come from people who have done something, who have built this country, and who have, you know, have all the skills as anyone else. You've got to see yourself in that. We've got to give our kids different shades of brown when they are making reports, when they are doing investigations. We have to give them those colors to color with. And I think that, as I said, parental engagement, and every opportunity that we can get kids to perform, to sing, dance, rap, free verse, parents are gonna come. We are going to, and this commission, organizations in the community, involve children, because you are more, you have the built-in resources. Schools are so limited. I mean, there are so many locks on the doors of what you can do in school, and it is really up. It puts the work back in the hands where it belongs, the community and the parents.
All right, Mr. Hickman. Thank you, Ms. Granger. Mr. Hickman, where do we go from here? How do you suggest we continue to energize the community using the teachings of Black literary societies?
I think we got to be excited. I think we as adults have to be excited. We as parents, we got to show some excitement. I say it all the time. When we get into the MLK parade, I said, do you know the MLK parade? And I'm talking to kids. The MLK parade starts at the bottom of the General Joseph McNeil Way, and it crosses over Meadowlark Lemon Bridge. And they're like, what? I was like, you need to look it up. Let me tell you who those folks are, so you'll know the actual reason of why I'm excited. When kids get to see people who look like them, then they get to achieve. they get to see people who look like them from their same neighborhood, oh, it's even better. That's why I talk about so many things. That's why I love Madafo, Lloyd Wilson, and I love those folks that came from my side of town and Meadowlark Glenman. I had a chance to meet Meadowlark Glenman before he passed away. That was the most amazing day for me, and it had nothing to do with basketball. It had something to do with that he grew up down the street on the north from where I grew up, and he attended Boys and Girls Club, 901 Nixon Street, where I was going. That was the most amazing thing to me. And then I was like, oh yeah, he played basketball too, but he was good. But he looked like me. He's from my same neighborhood, so I was encouraged. I was excited about it. So I think if we're excited about it as adults and as teachers and as parents, I think we will motivate our students and our kids to want to read, to want to get into the meat of reading, of literacy, and why it's so important and where it can take you. If I may, and this is just a shameless plug, and it's not really for me, there's a documentary, and it's called Butterfly in the Sky, and it's about reading Rainbow. How important reading Rainbow was to my generation, because I got to see somebody who looked like me on TV talking about reading, and he was reading. How big was that? So we have to inject that energy back into our youth, into our community, and I think us being excited about literacy and us being excited about telling our story will help the most part, and that's going forward.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so this is our last part. We're gonna let you, if you have any additional thoughts you would like to add, or just any additional insight, we want to give you the opportunity, each panelist, the opportunity to say anything that they wish. So I'm gonna actually start with Ms. Granger. Mrs. Granger.
I feel so honored to be sandwiched between these two individuals here. And when I was asked to participate, I'm like, I really need to be in the audience because this is a dilemma. This is a struggle that I want to be. I don't have much to add other than I know the value of literacy and learning. So I am just glad to have been invited, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Hickman?
I have the same response as Ms. Granger, but I will say this, and Ms. Granger can attest to that. I am from 222 McCrae Street.
And I'm 220.
And right next door. And it's not, I think it's a coincidence. I didn't know Ms. Granger was on the panel until I saw it. So this is a coincidence. It was not the best neighborhood, but we loved each other, right? It wasn't the best neighborhood. And if you were outside looking in, you would say, oh man, you would feel sorry for us. If you were on the outside looking in. This is a retired educator. And my mom was a retired educator. All the people around us were educators, from the Augustuses to whoever it was, they were educators. In that neighborhood where if you on the outside looking in, you would be like, oh my goodness, y'all all right down there? But I say this to say that education changed everyone in that neighborhood's situation. Education changed it. Because I was able to go to school. I was able to go and get my master's. I was able to get a great job. I was able to be an entrepreneur. Because now it's not all about getting a good job. It's can you function as an entrepreneur? So it's not all about that to this, in this particular generation. But I do have to say that my big thing is education will change your situation. And when we're able to show youth that it all comes from that one little book I asked you to read, that's the snowball effect. You learning to read, you wanting to read, you're excited about reading, then you're reading about whatever things that you want to get into, and boom, you're in your profession. That's how the snowball effects happen. And it will change your situation. Like my mom said, if I read, I can go anywhere. I don't need no GPS. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Imam Sharif?
Well, I'd like to start. I'd like to really thank the commission for having this program, inviting me to be a part of it. I commend the panelists for their very noteworthy comments. And as we say on our card and our stationery, we are educating, empowering, emancipating, and energizing through the celebration of our history. You know, we started small, but it's getting bigger. We've been at this for about 28 years now. And so we're glad to see it become something national. We're glad to see the community become more involved. And we know it's going to get bigger. We just hope those who come after us will keep the focus on the intellectual dynamic and on the importance of family gathering and family unions. But that's what the Juneteenth is about, being able to read, re-add to your intellect, to go to a higher level. I see two of my classmates came in, Mr. Billy Wilson and Mr. Freddie Wynell. They're both, we graduated the class of 66, 277 of us, and they can attest to the dynamics of Williston as a school, greatest school under the sun. So, you know, we don't have that now, but once again, I'm gonna go back to the home. The school has to become the home initially. Parents have to become more involved, and community leaders like this, yourself, Mr. Spicer, have to become as much involved as they can. We have members from the city, the county here today involved. So it has to be an environment where we're focused on, we cannot stop now. You know, so, you know, if you can sum all that up, that's it.
I am, and I appreciate each one of you. Can everyone give our panelists a round of applause? All right. So I am from the other side of town, East Wilmington. Grew up on Greendale Drive. And one of the key elements of why I got interested in the history of Wilmington was when I came back to Wilmington from Clinton City Schools to work at Williston. There were pictures all over the wall, but no one talked about them. And so we had the history of Williston on the wall. And so myself and one of my coworkers, Latasha Howard, we were the facilitators of a group called ROCME, Regional Council for the Advancement of Minorities in Engineering. And we provided our students with the opportunity to celebrate the Williston alumni in Williston in the library. And that was that first year that happened, because we did a deep dive of what those individuals did to contribute to the community. So from there, that's where it started. And so I'm gonna tell you, I am when I say a proud Wilmingtonian, nobody ain't gonna say nothing about what Wilmington has done for me. I remember going to Senator Luther Jordan's, God bless him, going to their funeral home and looking at dead bodies. So we would just walk around the neighborhood, going downtown to sit in the sheriff's chair, so we knew our city. I grew up in the 80s where I saw black leaders, where it was not an anomaly to me. And so when I look and I think about teachers, and I went when Blunt was Blunt, when Mosley was Blunt. And so it is just that important when we embrace our local community, because, hey, we're in the top 5 of where people want to come move to. So we got something here. And so we have to understand we have something that everybody else in the nation wants. And so we have to expand on that history that we have right here. And we have a wonderful heritage, a black heritage here in this city. And I just want to thank everybody for coming today. So this is the last series, thank you, in the Emancipation series. So this was a 6-month series, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Marsha Graham Ali to come up right now. And okay, I'm sorry. Oh, excuse me. I would like to celebrate Roger Hamrick and Joel, forgive me for not knowing your last name. They are part of the New Hanover County Remembrance Project of 1898, and they actually put on this display back in November. And then I asked them to come and put on this display for the students of Virgo. They actually did it twice. They did it during our Black History program at Virgo, and they also did it in the library, and the students got to come and actually see themselves in those pictures. And so we were trying to give students an asset look at what Black history looks like. And they assisted us in providing that. And Roger is also a volunteer at Virgo. So just a plug. All right. All right, so please, thank you.
Did either one of you want to This is Ms. Marsha, who is the chair of the Juneteenth committee. This is where the commission passes the torch, so to speak, to the Juneteenth folks. And Ms. Marsha's going to talk about where we go from here and announce some of the events. I do have some flyers that we will give you as you leave. Make sure that you know what's going on, Ms. Marsha.
First, I'd like to say I want to thank the commission for this wonderful program. It has been interesting. I love the panelists and their answers to the questions. And I thank each and every one of you for coming this afternoon. We have several programs still to come. And if you can't remember this, go to our Facebook page, the Juneteenth Committee of Wilmington, North Carolina Incorporated, and they're right there. You can see that, the dates and times. But tomorrow night, we will have a step show right here at the Martin Luther King Center starting at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then on Sunday, we have Speak Your Piece, which will be at the Cameron Arts Center from 2 to 5. And then I missed the festival, which is one of our big events, right here at the Martin Luther King, the Robert Strange Park, starting at 12 noon. So just follow. Oh, and also most important, well, not most, but very important, we're having a Juneteenth breakfast on Monday from 9:30 to 11:30 right here. The tickets are $30, and we're asking you to come out and participate with us. It'll be our first. And I think they had one years ago, he said, but it hasn't been done since then. So I'm going to say it's our first. Okay? So I thank each and every one of you for coming. And I thank you for supporting us. It means a lot to see people in the audience supporting Juneteenth. And as he said, we've been at this for Imam has been at it for 28 years. I haven't been quite here that length of time. I came on in 2004. But it was almost like a fight to get people to even know about Juneteenth. And, you know, trying to tell them about it. I remember talking to someone and they said, well, I don't want to know about that because that's slavery. I don't want to hear anything about that. So we're just so happy that everybody, no matter what race you are, come out and support us. We're excited. And that is my little spiel. I think I did pretty good. Huh?
Thank you, Ms. Marsha. Yeah, and there's a movie also. So my staff, thank Heather and Parker for being here. My Juneteenth folks, my commission does works well with you guys. So thank y'all for including us. This concludes our event for today. Just another quick announcement. On June 29th at 11 o'clock, the City Council designated 1406, which is Dr. Eaton's house that's now owned by Lenny Simpson. We will unveil a historical marker there. The commission is the one that's taking the lead on this. Please mark your calendars. I'm sure Lenny would greatly appreciate it and look forward to seeing all of you there. As always, if you need something with the commission or if there's some historical relevance to our city that we're missing, please feel free to either email me or contact me at City Hall. I'm more than happy to take it forward to the commission. They are a commission of 9, but they act as if they're a commission of about 29. So council appreciates the work that they do as volunteers. Thank you all so very much, my panelists. You've done a phenomenal job. GTV, Dylan and his staff, they always manage to capture the great moments that this commission puts forward. And Mary Jones, where's Mary Jones? Mary Jones, please give her a round of applause. Mary and her staff and Miss Yvette, we think Miss Yvette's part of the staff here, but she's always here. Thank you so very much for accommodating us. Miss Marsha has one more thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce some of the committees.
Yes, yes.
And in the back, we have Kamika Sidbury, who is excellent. There's Mary Jones. I don't want to miss anybody because I did that the other night. There's several more. Where's Amy? Right here.
Amy's in the back.
Okay, and then we have, as you know, Imam Sharif. There are more, but I'm just introducing the ones that Thank our committee so much for working so
Can we give them a round of applause for them, please? Once again, thank you for coming. Please make sure you get a flyer as you exit and have a great evening. Thank you.